What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to BST. It's been a little while since we've done our last episode. I think it was right after the NFC and AFC championship games. So it's been a little over a week, but we are back. A lot of stuff happening in the sports world. This week has been one of the most packed weeks of sports in recent memory, in terms of just content happening all at once. Of course, we had like all the media day at the Super Bowl, which I'm getting a crack of all of the Seahawk players being asked the same damn question. Oh, if you're at the 1 yard line, and there's like 40 seconds on the clock, are you running it or are you? And all they're all like, I don't know. We'll pass it. We'll run it. It's stupid. It's all these. Any reporter's question is just dumb at this point. But that's going on. The Super Bowl, of course, is in just a couple of days. We will have a kind of Super Bowl / Olympic hockey breakdown coming out later tonight, after we film that. Should be a fun one. And I mean, with the Super Bowl coming up, a lot happening with that. And then also just the Olympics. I'm super pumped to watch Team USA win gold this year. In the first time the Olympics has gone on in, I don't even know when, a decade plus. So it's going to be fun. But in the meantime, we are here to talk about the NBA because the NBA had its most recent trade deadline, and numerous stories coming into it. But I want to discuss the winners and losers. We'll talk about the NHL briefly and the Artemi Panarin trade. That's a big one in hockey. And then we'll just briefly touch on the NFL honors that took place last night. So without further ado, let's get right into this thing with the NBA. I wanted to discuss winners and losers. Lots of trades went down. And, you can kind of divide trades into different categories. There were a lot of trades from teams trying to get under the luxury tax, stuff like that, under the certain aprons. So there was a lot of that. But there were also just some trades where I think what was interesting this trade deadline is normally you see buyers be really, really good teams, and they're trying to add pieces for a potential championship run. We did see that here and there, but I don't think we saw it in the way that we thought we would, because there were big-time players being traded, and, before the trade deadline, going into it, it's like, where's Sabonis going to go? Where's Giannis going to go? Does AD get traded? He did. And like Harden, all of a sudden, the Harden news broke. So I do think, like, for example, we'll just go through the winners here. Like the Cavs acquiring Harden, that is a contender, getting a big fish, getting a big piece of their potential championship run. And we saw with Cleveland last year, number one in the NBA in terms of record, I believe. I guess no, they were number one in the East. But OKC definitely had a better record than them. But had such a prolific year last year, but then I believe they were just really injured in the playoffs, weren't able to get it done. But now you're acquiring Harden, and I really like this trade for Cleveland because Garland's a good player, and they traded Garland and a second to get Harden. Garland is a great player, but Harden is like a top 25 player all time, probably top 30, top 35, top 40, somewhere in there. So to get a player like this, who is still very, very good, is huge for Cleveland, and I think he'll fit pretty well. It should be interesting to see how he plays along. Why am I forgetting his name? Mitchell. He's a friggin' Jazz guy. I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, Donovan Mitchell. I can't believe I forgot his name. But it'll be interesting to see how they play there. But I feel like Harden and the pick and roll game with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, like that is going to be awesome to see. So I really like that trade for them. We'll get to the Clippers in a second because they were involved in multiple trades. Other winners, and I think the three that made this trade deadline very interesting was the Jazz getting Jaren Jackson Jr., the Pacers getting Zubats from the Clippers, and the Wizards getting AD. So let's start with the Jazz. As a Jazz fan, I love it because the Jazz, basically since 2022, after trading Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, have been in a constant rebuild, and it's been bad. There's been tanking. You have the best odds to get Cooper Flag. It doesn't go through. You have like the third best odds to get Victor Wembanyama. You don't win it. So it's been a rough one. It's been a rough go of it to try to get some good players in Utah, but I still liked what they had built so far. And so far this season, you saw big breakouts, but from Keontae George, Markkanen's having one of his best years of his career. I'm averaging close to 28 points per game. And then Walker Kessler, before he was injured, was one of the best defensive bigs in the game and showed a shockingly decent to good three ball, which kind of came out of nowhere. So I think the Jazz will be a really interesting team next season because they get Jaren Jackson Jr., and he's going to slide into the 4. They're going to be a massive team because if you look at their lineup, at point guard, they got Keontae. At shooting guard, at right now, Ace Bailey will probably be their shooting guard, and that's where it gets interesting because not only do the Jazz acquire Jaren Jackson Jr., but they keep their pick this year to do so. That is huge because right now, I think they're probably like 5th or 6th worst in the league, and that's a pretty decent chance to jump. And to me, they just got to get into the top 3 and acquire one of Boozer, DeBonsa, or Peterson, and they're set up for the future. Will that happen? Who knows? But I think the success of this deal hinges on that fact. And I know there's multiple people who have said this draft class is pretty stacked. So who knows like what it looks like come May, June, whenever like the draft is. Like who knows what it will look like come then. But right now, on paper, it looks really good moving forward because, like I was saying, Keontae George at the 1, he's 6'4". That's pretty big for a point guard. If you have Ace Bailey at the 2, he's like 6'9", 6'10". That's really big for a 2. But then also if you want to slide in like Peterson, anybody, they're still going to be a big team. And then at the 3, Markkanen moves from the 4 to the 3. He's like, I've seen reports where he's anywhere from like 6'11" to 7'1". He's basically a 7-footer. Then you have Jaren Jackson Jr., who's basically a 7-footer. And then you have Walker Kessler at the 5, who's basically a 7-footer. They're going to be a massive team next year. And it's going to be fun to watch. It's something that we really haven't seen. The only thing I can think of is the Rockets, who are a pretty big team. But, I mean, this is going to be interesting to see. They're going to be a pretty slow team in terms of, like, they don't have a lot of just, like, shifty, smaller guys. But I do think Keontae has that part to his game. So I just really like it. And it's an interesting move. It's a move no one saw coming to acquire a player that not only did people think maybe or maybe not he's on the trade block, but if you asked anybody, nobody would have guessed that Utah would be the one to do it. But overall, man, I really like it because it's a win now move, but you're not jeopardizing the future too much. But then also one of my other winners is Memphis's future. Because last offseason, they trade Bane to Orlando. That was a good trade. They got a haul back for that. And then here, they're trading Jaren Jackson Jr., and they're just committing to the rebuild. And in terms of what they got back, let me check the full trade details because it was a decent return. It wasn't horrible. Let's see here. All right. So they get Walter Clayton, Taylor Hendricks, Jordan Yang, Kyle Anderson, 2027 first-round pick, most favorable of Cleveland, Minnesota, and Utah, 2027 Lakers first-round pick, and 2031 Phoenix first-round pick. So here's the thing. That first-round pick that I mentioned, the best of, the most favorable of, that one is the big fish in here. I do think that the 2031 Phoenix first-round pick is interesting because by that time, Booker will be like, 35? So who knows where they are in terms of contention, but I do think the big part of this trade is that first-round pick. And if you look at those teams, Cleveland, they just acquired Harden. They still got a bunch of their pieces. Who knows what they'll be, how bad they'll be in 2027? I'm not sure. Then you got Minnesota. Again, like, who knows? Maybe you thought they might acquire Giannis. They also made some pretty underrated moves. I don't think they're going to be a bad team in 2027. And then you have Utah. And that's where it gets interesting. I think the Utah front office and Danny Ainge said, if we're making this move, we expect to win games next year. And we're going to commit to the tank this year, try to get a top 3 pick, try to get a top 5 pick, get our last piece. I mean, you look at the Jazz roster, if they can get one of those top 3, like, they're set up. So I think for the front office, they're like, if we can tank this year, get that last piece, and move forward with this group of players, that pick in 2027 may not be the most favorable. So I think there's a chance that one's really good if this whole experiment for Utah doesn't work out. But I also think there's a chance that it does work out really well, and the Jazz end up not really giving up a lot away. And the Lakers 2027 shouldn't be very bad, and we'll talk about the Lakers in a second. But yeah, I think it's a good trade. And I mean, the Jazz still have a ton of assets. I think they have 8 first-round picks over the next 7 years. So, I mean, if there's another trade they want to make in the offseason to kind of further go into this win-now route, I mean, they definitely can. So, I love it for the Jazz. And for Memphis, you're selling away players that you just were never going to win a championship with. And it felt like it was over. Ja Morant. It was honestly kind of shocking to not see Ja Morant dealt somewhere for how long his name was in trade talks, it felt like. But he is staying, apparently. I assume he'll get moved in the offseason or something. I don't know. But just committing to the rebuild, you've had this group, you've had this core for a few years now, hasn't gotten you too far. So I respect a team who can just commit, go all in, and then now they have like the tied for the most first round picks over the next 7 years. So I really like what they're doing. Pacers getting Zubac from the Clippers. This is an awesome trade for the Pacers. They're going to be a dangerous team next year. Similar to, I mean, look at all these 3 of these teams: the Jazz, the Pacers, the Wizards. These are all teams who suck right now. They are in contention for a top 3 pick, and they are buying now for next year. They are banking on the fact that they're going to get an absolutely dominant, great player in the draft to pair with this already good core that they have. And for the Pacers, this is just bad circumstance. You've missed your best player for most of the year, and Miles Turner left. Well, this is their big now. They're good. This is their big. And he is better than Miles Turner. And we just saw this team go on a championship-type run and be an injury away from maybe beating the OKC Thunder in the finals. So I love this move for them. They get Zubac, who can play the pick and roll with Hallie. He's really good defensively. Zubac is an underrated player, and I just love this move. And they didn't really give much away. So they gave away 2 first-round picks and Benedict Mathurin. And I know a lot of the opinion on Benedict Mathurin is all over the place. Some people say he's really good. Some people aren't a huge fan of him. Some people say the Pacers were better without him on the floor. Who knows? I think he's a good young player for the Clippers to get back in this deal. And you never know with a change of scenery what a guy can look like. So I'm not going to overreact too much on that side of the trade. But in just terms of the first round picks, it's the Pacers' first round pick this year. So that's where it gets interesting. The Jazz and the Wizards did not do that. The Jazz and the Wizards also did not acquire a player like Zubac, in my opinion. I think Zubac is probably the best out of those 3. Maybe Jaren Jackson's better than, and 80 just at his age makes it a little bit different. Zubac is 28. But it's top 1 through 4 protected. So that's interesting. And then it's also 10 through 30 protected. So if it falls within that 5 to 9 range, it's the Clippers pick. So you assume either the Pacers are planning, I mean, at this point, you have to plan to be 1 through 4. And right now, I think they're 3, so they're doing fine right now, but they can't win games. Wouldn't be shocked if Zubac has back spasms or something and is benched the whole rest of the year to just tank. But that is what makes this interesting. For me, I don't know how I feel about that, and I feel a hell of a lot better for the Clippers if they can get that first round pick somehow. If they can't, it's going to be rough. And I think I just think it's a good move for the Pacers. If you can get the top 4 pick, if it doesn't go to the Clippers, you get a good player there. You get Zubats coming in, and then you still have Siakam, you still have Hallie. This is gonna be a good team next year. So I really like that for the Pacers. And for the Clippers, I just didn't think you got enough back. I think it's the other first round pick they have is like 20, 29 or something. But I just think the Pacers are going to be a contender after this year. So we'll talk about the Clippers in a second. And then the Wizards getting AD kind of out of nowhere as well. And just like the other three, like a team who's bad, who is trying to improve their team for next year. And if this team can go into next year healthy and stay healthy, they will be dangerous because now they have SAR, they have AD, they have Trae Young, including other pieces. This team is going to be awesome. And like I said, it hinges on health because these are not exactly players who have stayed healthy in their career. Street clothes Davis is the thing. He has been injured. He was injured a lot for the Mavs. So he's going to have to stay healthy. But if they're healthy, this team could get very, very interesting, especially if they get a top pick. And it's looking like they will. So I like it. And for Dallas, I like it as well. I mean, you didn't get a lot of value back. They got, let's see here. So basically, they got a bunch of fillers, and then, so they got 2026 OKC first round pick. Not going to be very good. And then a 2030 Golden State Warriors first round pick. Top 20 protected. So that one's not going to be very good because if it's anywhere in the top 20, you don't get it. And then they got 3 future seconds. So it's not the biggest haul for AD. And certainly if you pair it in with context on the Luka deal, it looks like utter dog shit. But you can't do that. The Luka deal is over. I still think that is a major conspiracy. And I know that's like probably not what it was. But for me, it's just like there is no way they thought that deal was good for them. And just winning the lottery after it just seems so rigged to me. But regardless, I just don't think it's a huge deal to get. It's just a little bit of value for AD. It's not a lot, but it feels like they're kind of wiping their face clean from the Nico Harrison era, and it's a clean start. And you have Cooper Flag, you have the star again. So, I mean, he just dropped 50 the other night. So, I like it. I like it a lot. Just move on. Just move on from the situation. It was never a good situation, and you get to move on to greener pastures. So I don't mind it at all. But yeah, those are kind of my winners. Let's talk about the losers. Clippers. It's bad. It's really bad. And Clippers fans can cope and say, oh well, maybe Matherin's a good player. We got some first round picks. If you look at their total haul for what they traded away, it's not horrible. But they were already kind of in no man's land. But at least they had kind of a direction. Now they're just lost. They're lost. They're lost in no man's land. At least in no man's land before, they were moving forward. Now they're just lost. They don't know which way they're going. They're moving right, left, up, down, backwards, forwards. They don't know. Because with Kawhi, with James Harden, with Zubats, you were at least trying to win. Was it going well this season? No, but they were playing really, really good basketball over the recent stretch and trying to claw their way back into playoff contention. And I don't think anybody would have wanted to face them with Kawhi, with how he's playing, having a career year. I think nobody would have wanted to face them. But all of a sudden, the Harden news drops. He wants out. And they're like, well, I guess we just sell. And in principle, that makes sense. Sell. If one of your best players wants out, sell. And it kind of came out that Harden was thinking about the franchise. I don't know the truth to that, but it is just interesting. And regardless of what you think of the Harden trade, regardless of what you think of the Zubats trade, this team is not in a position to be sellers and to rebuild because they don't own a single one of their first round picks till 2030 or 2031. One of the I can't remember which one it is, but it's a long ass time. Over the next 4 to 5 years, they do not own one of their first round picks. That is a problem. And sure, they got a few first round picks here, but none of them are overly valuable. And they got 0 for James Harden. So you got to think Kawhi is on the move in the offseason. I know there was a little buzz at the end of the trade deadline that Kawhi was going to be moved. He didn't. But it's just like they're trying to rebuild, but they don't have any of the assets to do so. And it's just really, really bad. It's really bad. And now OKC's going to get a top 5 pick, which is just brutal, just insanely brutal. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have traded away Zubats. They shouldn't have traded away Harden, but it's just hard for me to see the vision here. And it's gonna be a long 4 to 5 years for Clippers fans. And maybe you can sign guys as free agents. It is LA. So you never know. But it's just gonna be really hard to build a competent contending team without your first round picks. So big win for for 76ers fans because they have a few Clippers first round picks. So big time for them. So yeah, they're a massive loser in all of this, in my opinion. And then you got the Lakers contention status. They made one trade. They traded like Gabe Vincent for Luke Kennard or some shit. No, I mean it's a whatever trade. Sure, they get better shooting, but I don't know. For me, the Lakers, you traded for Luka. That was such a crazy all-in future-saving move. I mean, think about if this team didn't have Luka. They would be absolutely screwed for the future because they wouldn't have AD is getting up there in age. LeBron probably should just retire. They would be screwed. But they have Luka now. And, Luka isn't going to be, this young superstar forever. Like, these years stack on you, and they stack on you fast. And before you know it, Luka's going to be mid-30s, and you're like, wow, where did the time go? Like, we had the superstar, and then now he's just gone. And now he's old, and now he's not the same player, possibly. So, that is always a risk you're going to run by not just trying to capitalize and trying to go all in. And I know they want to capitalize in the offseason. They want to make big moves in free agency or whatnot. But for me, it's like, and I don't know exactly what they should have done, but I felt like they needed to get another big. DeAndre Ayton is not it. So, I mean, I don't know what that looks like, but I would have loved to see them make a move like that and just try to capitalize on these years that you have Luka. I don't think that's a hot take. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, what's their GM's name? I can't ever think of their GM's name. Rob Pelinka. If Rob Pelinka doesn't trade for Luka, I mean, this guy's done a pretty horrific job as the GM of the Lakers. So they're one of my big losers. I just think when you have a superstar like that, you got to go all in to try and contend with them. And then lastly, Shams Charania. This guy has been pushing this narrative for like a month that Giannis, and even probably more, that Giannis was going to get traded, and it was almost a done deal. And maybe that was true at a certain time, but it certainly seems like over the past couple, like a day or so, all these executives are coming out and saying, oh, the Bucks were never serious about trading Giannis. Giannis never really wanted to leave. And for me, it's like, okay, that's fine. He never had to. But why was this pushed as like it's going to happen? And I know a lot of people are saying this would have never happened with Woj. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think like if that's something that Shams is just pushing to try to get some buzz, to try to get some clicks. That is a problem. And who knows if it was, but also it could just be that Giannis just doesn't know what the hell he wants to do. Because it seems like Giannis is pretty like all over the place. Do I want to stay? Do I want to go? He's like posting on his Instagram and stuff. Like the guy is kind of all over the place. So in a certain sense, I can see that maybe that's why. But still, to me, it's just like he better have thought there was a real chance of it to happen, and it better not have been him just making up rumors, excuses to try to get clicks, because that is a huge problem. And I know he already gets a lot of hate because everybody loved Woj so much, and now Shams is in here, and it just doesn't hit the same. But those are kind of, and honestly, like the fans, although it was a great trade deadline, a lot of curveballs, a lot of weird trades that we didn't see coming. The biggest one that we wanted to see coming, Giannis getting traded to the Wolves or the Miami Heat, didn't happen, and that's what sucks. Because I mean, it was pushed like this is going to happen. There are multiple teams involved, and it never did. So I'd say the fans won and lost in that aspect, and Shams Charania is a big loser in this year's trade deadline in the NBA. So yeah, that's all for the NBA trade deadline. Let's move on to the NHL. Another trade in a different sport. Artemi Panarin is going to the LA Kings. He signs a 2-year, $11 million AAV deal. I love this trade for the Kings. Absolutely love this trade for the Kings. You have your captain, Anze Kopitar, who has been there for numerous years. He's like 38 or some shit at this point. He is old as hell. So you have him. You're kind of at a weird spot. They're contending. They're right there with Vegas in the Pacific. But it's also just like they don't really have a lot going for them. They don't really have a lot for their future. They were kind of screwed. Like, honestly, going into the season, I think Kings fans were just kind of like, what is this team? And they made a lot of weird, interesting signings this offseason. Not sure I would have done them. Like Corey Perry. I can't remember what the defenseman they got. Cody Ceci, they signed to a big deal. Like, just bizarre extensions or contracts in the offseason. So nobody really knows what this team is. And for me, when you have a player like that who's been there forever, similar to what the Capitals have done recently for Ovechkin, they've built a pretty good team around him. And it's like, hey, captain, we're going to contend for you. We're going to try to get you a cup before you retire. And who knows if it will work for the Kings. But for them to just make this move, I really like it. Just go out and make it. And they did not give up a lot. They gave up Liam Greentree and a conditional third-round pick. And it's like if they win a playoff round, it turns into a second-round pick. If they win another playoff round after that, they get an extra fourth. So it's not a whole lot from the Kings to get a player in Artemi Panarin who's been one of the best in his career when he's played. So and he's having another good season this year. So I like it. I just think when you have a team that's kind of in no man's land, kind of like the Clippers, they did the opposite for the Kings. They went all in to try to get this thing. Last year everybody thought it was the year, and they still lose to Edmonton. We might get that matchup again, which would just be ridiculous at this point. But I really like it. And the interesting thing with Panarin is there were other suitors, and like the Kraken, they were willing to offer him 4 years, $14 million, larger than Leon Draisaitl's record-breaking contract. So they were willing to give. There were other teams willing to give him a lot of money. There were other teams that he didn't want to sign with. So I know Chris Drury and the New York Rangers are getting a lot of hate. For me, it's like their hand was kind of forced. Panarin only wanted to go to LA. And what are you supposed to do if your player only wants to go to LA? You got to trade him to LA. And if LA knows that, you can't exactly get a lot from LA because LA knows, oh, well, he only wants to come here. So We can't give you a lot. We ain't going to give you a first. I mean, everybody thought it was going to be a first, a third, a second, a prospect, like a big deal, and it just wasn't. I mean, this is objectively not a lot for Panarin, and I know Rangers fans are killing Drury, and I get it. Like when you have a franchise superstar like this, you expect to get something more than just this from him. I totally understand that idea, but I also, if you just look at the situation as a whole, like this is a 34-year-old who needed to sign a new deal. Who knows how long he has in the NHL at this point. So it's a risk for any team who wanted to take him on, especially to sign a new deal. And I just think their hand was forced a little bit, but they'll probably ruin Liam Greentree's progression and development because that's what they do with about every forward they have. So should be interesting to see, but I wouldn't kill the Rangers too much because I don't know what you wanted them to do at the end of the day. All right, let's finish out the show with the NFL honors. We'll talk about kind of the controversial ones and the interesting ones. We'll start out with the MVP. Matthew Stafford won it. It was by one vote. He had 24 first place votes. Drake May had 23. And at the end of the day, I think the right MVP won. I know people peddle the Drake May MVP discussion. I never really bought into it. I just thought Stafford was a better player all year. Obviously, the schedule comes into play for Drake May. But I thought, Stafford threw the most touchdowns. Stafford was just the better player. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a case where an MVP threw like 44 touchdowns and 8 picks, and not win the MVP. Like, that's just a ridiculous season from Stafford. I thought he was the MVP all along. But what's interesting is somebody gave a first place vote to Justin Herbert. Listen, I'm a Herbo fan. I love Justin Herbert. First place vote in the MVP discussion? Are we sure? Are we for sure? So a lot of Drake May fans are pissed. They're like, who is this guy? Who gave a first place vote to Justin Herbert? I mean, that's crazy. So just kind of bring in discussion, who's really voting on this stuff? I mean, for me, it should have been two guys clearly who should have gotten first place votes. Drake May, Matthew Stafford. So for that's just wild to me. That's just wild. Wild that it was that Justin Herbert got a first place vote. But I am happy for Stafford, and he did announce he's coming back for another year. And honestly, I was talking to my buddies yesterday. I believe this solidifies the Hall of Fame discussion for Matthew Stafford. And I think, honestly, he might be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So I believe he's 6th in touchdowns, 7th in yards. He has a ring. He has an MVP. He has 3 Pro Bowls, 1 first-team All-Pro. That's a pretty damn good resume. And I just think, he's got to be first ballot. And I get it. We saw with this year's Hall of Fame class, some good players were left out. Bill Belichick was left out because, this is a stacked group. There's a lot of really good players in NFL history who are trying to get in. And for many of them, it could be their 13th, 14th, or 15th time. So I get it. He might not be. But to me, he has a first ballot Hall of Fame resume. And has kind of solidified his career because at certain points, obviously forever, you can, well, he doesn't have the ring. Well, he got the ring. Oh, well, he doesn't have an MVP. He got the MVP. Oh, well, he doesn't have an All-Pro. Well, he got the All-Pro. So for me, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. And then for Offensive Player of the Year, what was interesting is JSN won it. I will argue that Puka should have won it. Did the same thing JSN did in 1.5 less games. But I digress. What was interesting is CMC made his way into second on the ballot, which I thought was very, very interesting. I don't hate it. I mean, CMC was a phenomenal player this year. Had a ton of all-purpose yards, scrimmage yards. CMC was great, but that just kind of shocked me. And Puka, I think, was 4th, which was kind of weird. But yeah, congrats to JSN. Couldn't be a more deserving human. I mean, that guy is such a role model for younger players. Just does everything right. and he's going to try to win a Super Bowl in a few days. And then Defensive Player of the Year, obviously Myles Garrett, no controversy, got all the first place votes. See, that would have been pissed. That would have pissed me off if some random guy got a first place vote in that one. I mean, it was so obvious it was Myles Garrett. And then for Coach of the Year, Mike Vrabel makes sense. I mean, I think what he did taking that Patriots team, how far they went, and you'll say the schedule, but I just think they were consistently one of the most physical, one of the best teams in the league. So I completely agree with that. Offensive Player of the Year, Tet McMillan, relatively weak class in terms of Offensive Player of the Year. There wasn't a super big standout. Obviously, for half the season, we thought Ibuka was going to be that. But I think overall, Tet, in terms of like what he gave to the Panthers, was a true threat for Bryce Young. He was great. I have no issues with that. And then Carson Schwessinger won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Seahawks fans are pissed. No, they want Eamon Wari. Both are deserving. I could go either way. Eamon Wari, Schwessinger. I'm cool if they give it to Schwessinger. I do think Eamon Wari is the better player, though. Like, Eamon Wari is just a freak, a dog on the field. So I probably would have given it to him. Protector of the Year is a cool award. And Joe Thuney, I mean, that guy, what he brought to Chicago and with their injuries, especially at the end of the year, and just moving to left tackle. We saw that for so many years in Kansas City. Oh, they have a problem? Oh, just move Joe Thuney there. And he can play it just phenomenally. So I'm not happy because he's a Bear, but congrats to Joe Thuney for winning the inaugural Protector of the Year award. He's well deserving. He's one of the best in the league and changed that Bears O-line this year for the better. What else was there? Even the moment of the year was a fucking DJ Moore touchdown catch on the Packers. Pisses me off, man. They had to remind me of that shit as a Packers fan. Unreal. But yeah, it was comeback player of the year was McCaffrey. That makes sense. He'll rebound and have a new campaign for comeback player of the year in 2028 when he inevitably gets injured next year because of some crazy injury for sure. It's what happens. I'm just kidding. Hopefully he doesn't get injured, but it just feels like with the amount of touches he has on that body right now, like he might get injured next year. But yeah, that's all the awards I can think of. It was a good week of football awards, whatever, media, NHL stuff happening, and of course the NBA trade deadline. Looking forward to the Super Bowl. Looking forward to the Olympics. It should be all good and fun. But please like, subscribe, comment. Check out TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. All those things help out a ton. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and have a great night.